Welcome to Wild and Wise, where I dive into conversations with trailblazers in business, design, and creativity. Together, we'll uncover the wisdom and wild spirit behind their journeys, the stories, the struggles, and the sparks of inspiration that shape a curated life. Follow along on Instagram at WildXWisePod. Now let's dive into today's episode. We're worlds away from each other, and yet we are connected because of Instagram. Today I have on Bami, an amazing brand builder, coach, somebody who I've learned so much from about my own entrepreneurial journey. He's been able to put into words things that sometimes you just can't explain in the struggle of owning a business. So thank you so much for being here today on Wild and Wise.
Thank you for the kind words.
You're welcome. So for those who have never heard of you or haven't followed your work, can you tell us a little bit more about the work that you do and who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Bami, and I run a personal branding agency. Okay, we're a team of 18 people, and what we basically do is we actually help founders. I call it like people that have lived, founders that have lived, founders that have grown businesses. They are people that have gone through different shifts over the years, and they are really looking to tighten their personal brands now because again, we are now in the world of if you are invisible, right? Nobody really knows about you. So and what we basically do is we help these guys clarify what their own voice is, supposed to be, what their identity is, then create content day in, day out, for them and distribute that as well.
Wonderful. What pulled you into brand strategy in the first place? Like, what was the moment that you knew this was your lane?
Actually, I started as a logo designer. Well, let me see, overall graphic designer, right? And that was in school, in college, right? So I studied computer science, but computer science was never really my thing. I just went for computer science because that sounded like, it looked like the cool thing, that the school had, right? But then, the first semester of my computer science college, I sort of knew that I think I chose the wrong course. I remember during one of the exams, there was this, I've forgotten what subject it was. I looked at the first questions and I was like, oh my God, I can't answer this. And I literally just dropped the paper and I walked out of the class, the exam hall, right? I had to rewrite the exam later, I think 3 years after, my last year in school. So, but anyway, I didn't like computer science. It wasn't really working. And I actually tried as well to learn coding outside of, the school curriculum and things like that, right? I genuinely tried, but it just wasn't clicking for me.
Yeah.
So then I had this circle of friends. Okay, Emmanuel, amazing tech guy. He already built web apps even before he came to school. So that was his thing. And I also had my other guy in there as well. His name is Prince. By the end of the day, these guys were guys that they were interested in the whole coding thing, and I sort of started to feel left out of my my circle of friends. Yeah, so I decided, okay, look, I need to be able to contribute, to whatever discussion is happening about maybe career moving forward with your life. Right?
Yeah.
Then I picked up graphic design again because I had learned it before when I was in high school, GSS3, junior high school. So I said, okay, let me go for graphic design. Then from graphic design, I started to delve into the world of logo design. So from there, when I delve into logo design, I started posting immediately on Instagram actually. So posting. Then about some months after, I got my first client. Then there was this client that I actually got from Australia. These guys, they ended up becoming friends of mine. They were the big check, I call it, kind of thing that I had was $300 for 2 hours of my time for logo. And it was big, right? So then eventually these guys actually ran out of business. All right. And that was really painful because they had become friends at that point. So I hopped on the call one of them one of the days. Oh, what happened to your business? Why did you guys shut down? Then it was we didn't really have the direction of what we wanted the business to be. It was an active wear brand, right? And everybody was launching clothing brands then. This is 2018, 2019-ish. So then just listening to him, we didn't really know we didn't know about what the brand is supposed to be, how we're supposed to actually market ourselves. They just started, okay, we have this business idea. Let's go ahead and build a website, put logo together and, start posting on social media and start selling. But they were missing the core foundational bits of what it means to really build a brand, build a business. Then I had no knowledge about that then, right? But that really intrigued me. I was like, okay, look, I think this might actually be the next level for me, right? Just to learn something around delivering more foundational strategic stuff, for businesses beyond just logo. Then I started a journey of learning more about brand strategy, went into YouTube. The world of future is here. So there are early days, like, posting on YouTube, future is here. Bought their course. It's called Core. There's this brand strategy course that they had. And I don't know if that's still selling right now. It's called Core. So yeah, learn a little bit about brand strategy. Then I did boot camp with one of the mentees of Chris Do. Her name is Melinda Livesey. And there was a boot camp that she held that time, for weeks. And so that's when I really started to learn about this is how you actually build brand strategy, stuff like that. Yeah.
Wow. It's so interesting though, because if you look at the big scheme of things, the time that you've had in the industry doesn't even feel super long. And yet you have such a depth of knowledge and understanding, a sort of like psychological, I don't know, there's like a soul to what you're saying, as if you've been doing this for 30 years or 20 years, it's like somehow you capture the essence of the entrepreneur and brand building. And I think it probably feels also that way because it's so specific to what I do, and what I do is so niche as well. I'm a brand builder, and
Mhm.
I work with companies all the time. And so every time I read your stuff, I would always think like, how is this guy so young? But yet he's captured the essence of the challenges
Yeah.
of building a brand in a way that just feels so profound. And so thank you for sharing how you got started, because I always love hearing founders' journeys and what took them where and why. And, I love your story about the fact that you dropped out of school and or walked out of this class, and yet you still found your way. And I think it's a beautiful example of also with brands. Sometimes you have to step away. Sometimes you have to walk
Yeah.
away and come back to an idea. Sometimes it's not
Mhm.
the right time. Sometimes you're walking down the wrong lane. And so
Yeah.
your life is also just such a reflection of the type of work that you do as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And to build on what you said about, I'm still very young. I turned 28 like last month. So that sometimes like I actually read my text posts as well on Instagram. I'm like, oh my god, like, how did you come about this, right? It's crazy. But one thing that I would say, like, has really been helpful on my journey is like, I've been really lucky enough to connect with so many amazing business owners, like, work with them, millionaires and things like that, right? And at the base level of everything, you start to actually realize that everybody actually has the same problems, whether you are just starting off or you're already right here. When some of my clients are actually telling me about, my God, like, Bami, I have imposter syndrome. And I'm like, literally, a 7-figure business owner, I'm not. So how come you are having like, the same confidence issues, the same operational, the same, showing up issues that I actually have? So, it just started to really make me realize that, okay, I think like everybody, we all have the same problems, man. It doesn't matter how much money you are
Yeah,
making or how many years of experience you have, so
so
yeah, it's
true.
crazy.
Yeah, you once you see the pattern, there's like you don't need years and years and years to uncover it, because it's similar and the answers lie within, and you're here to sort of guide people through that path. And I think that's one thing
Mhm.
people don't realize a lot with the work that you and I do, is that we're walking people through their own borders that they've built, and their own like, walls that they've built inside themselves from childhood. It's like, I
Mhm.
wouldn't claim to be a therapist by any means, but usually the challenges of the business are from the inside, a mindset shift that must occur for the founder in order
Yeah.
to open the floodgates for new solutions. And so a big part of our job isn't just telling somebody a story, somebody's story, or filming a video. I mean, oftentimes if I'm
Mhm.
filming with a client, most of the time is spent walking them through their imposter syndrome, or that they're
Yeah.
not liking the way they look, or they're not liking the way they're showing up. And so much of it
Mhm.
is finding a way to comfort them, to give them security, to remind them, to walk through things with them. And it's kind of something that we don't like talk about a lot, because we're kind of showing the end result, which is this beautiful website, this amazing
Yeah.
video, this thing went viral. But so much of our work is walking people through their own walls.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what makes it beautiful as well, right?
Yeah.
And it makes it very, very, it makes it become a work of how should I say? It's very fulfilling.
Mhm.
Because it goes beyond just like, this surface level thing, because sometimes like when you're literally having like your clients tell you, oh my god, like, man, because of you I've been able to like, show up more. I've been able to like, one of my clients was saying to me the other day that, I mean, like, this whole personal branding journey, content journey has been a healing experience for me. I'm like, and you're
Yeah,
just like, oh my God, like you being able to contribute to somebody's life in that manner, it's just something that you would never like it's fulfilling, all right. And I feel like as you're actually growing your business, we are in the space where things are not easy now. It's getting harder day by day, and for you to like keep on being in the game, it goes way beyond just like getting success. So how much money did I make today, or how much money did I make this year, like that emotional fulfilling internal win that matters a lot. And the work that we do just like it gives that on a different level that I feel like some people just cannot like, they can't really relate to unless they're actually in the work themselves.
absolutely. Let's go back
Mhm.
to your early days because a lot of what we're talking about is about a mindset shift. And so I wanted to know
Mhm.
more about what was the biggest mindset shift that really propelled you because it sounds like that boot camp really solidified, you learning the things you needed to, but what was happening up in your mindset to really shift the way that you take on clients and the way that you share with the world?
Yeah. I'll say like, it's actually two things, mindset and also like, I'll say like physical thing really. Okay. So if you notice like, around the 2018, 2019 period, okay, platforms like Fiverr and Upwork, they really started to come up like crazy,
Yeah.
So you go on Fiverr, like you start to really see like, people literally what you are charging thousands of dollars for. You get somebody on Fiverr that'll be like, I can actually do this for 5 hours within, sorry, for $5 within 2 hours. Logo design, for example. And I sort of knew it was getting harder day by day for me that to actually get logo design clients that I think I was charging like 2 grand or 1,500 like then for logo design. But then it was just like numerous people right here like saying do this for like $5 or $10. The competition is like now coming right here. So I sort of knew that if I really wanted to, all right, to continue being in business, I needed to like solve a bigger problem that is beyond just okay, I'm sitting down, I'm designing logo, stuff like that, all right. And that bigger problem is the thinking, the strategy behind like what propels the growth of a business, of a brand. So that really helped me know that okay, look, like this is actually where I'm supposed to go really if I
Yeah.
really want to continue to stay on in business. So solve bigger problems, you make more money, you connect with better people, right? Then when I decided this, then I had a limiting belief. Okay, the limiting belief of okay, who the heck is going to pay you for an intangible thing like brand strategy? Because it's intangible. It's not
Yeah.
like I'm designing a website, for example. Like everybody sees that okay, you have a deliverable,
Yeah.
physical deliverable. That okay, you have like this beautiful website stuff like that. But this is you sit down with this person, uncover their story, uncover like okay, this is actually what your brand is supposed to be saying. This is what your positioning is. It's intangible, right? And I really struggled at the beginning that, okay, how do you sell this to somebody? Like, how do you make them pay you for this? Right. So I had to like, work on that thinking in my head that look, value doesn't have to be a tangible thing. And I think like it's also because we're in this society where it feels like the external wins are really like the big wins, right? Nobody really, it's like the internal wins, the ones that are hidden, sometimes it's sort of like, it feels like maybe the society doesn't really pay attention to that, to those things much, right? But I had to like, just tell myself that, okay, look, like the intangible things, they really matter. The foundational piece, just like, and that's when you see me on the calls, I'll be explaining to the clients, brand strategy, just like the foundation of, just like the same way you build your house, right? Like the
Yes.
foundation piece. If it's not strong, it comes crumbling down, like, in the next couple of months. So I always try to like, use the analogy of like building, that, okay, look, this is how it is, this is what it is. Yeah. And that really helped me a whole lot, and
Yeah.
just knowing that value doesn't have to be tangible. The intangible.
I feel that so much because I started mine as a public relations firm where there was deliverables, which was like earning press hits and,
Mm,
being published in big magazines and things like that. But I too
yeah.
I actually felt like it didn't matter if I got the press hit, if the company was going to fall apart because the foundation wasn't strong. And so, like,
Mm,
you're speaking directly to the exact reason I shifted what we're doing to communication and brand strategy because I felt as though it was them almost wasting their money on me. And I didn't like that feeling because I just thought I'd rather you pay
Mm,
me to build a strong foundation. And then if we don't work together anymore, I've left you with something that you'll have forever. But like
mm,
getting, written up in Forbes once and people forget about it a few weeks later, it's like, it didn't feel fulfilling to me. So it's such a great point
yeah.
that it is a hard sell and we have to find the value of what we're delivering to the clients within ourselves and be sure of that. And that takes a long time. I still find myself
Yeah.
going, this is a very expensive, proposal that I'm sending to a potential client. Do I believe it's worth it? And I know it is, but I still am like, wow, I'm asking a lot but I know the value of what we're doing and we've been doing it long enough to know that the foundation that we're building for brands, just the same way you are, is imperative to
Mhm.
any other thing they want to do. It's imperative to the website. It's imperative to the public relations. It's imperative to
Yeah.
even building the language around who they are, who they serve, why it
Yeah.
matters. And
Mm,
so, yeah, you're just speaking to my heart because I've seen in the past people say, but like, what are you delivering me? And I'm like, a full
it's
book of
crazy.
knowledge on who you are and how you exist
Yeah.
in the world. And I can understand
Mhm.
why some people it's not for them, but other people you give them a gift of a lifetime because
Yeah.
you're like an extension of their business and you're building their business with them. And that's what I think a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah, exactly. And and I would also like say that it's especially when you come across some business owners where you just know that okay, look, I can actually just help you, but their mindset, the way they just think about the whole thing is just different. And sometimes like it's very painful to actually lose such people. But you
Mhm.
just have to be okay with it because at the end of the day, it's very hard to like if they are not already convinced,
Yeah.
themselves. Sometimes it's just very hard for you to like do the convincing for them. So yeah,
Yeah. I'm in a place in
it's a
my
crazy
career where
world.
I'm not convincing anybody. If you don't
Yeah.
want to, then it's
Mhm.
okay. Somebody else will, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. And I used to actually make that mistake before as well.
Yeah, same.
Where like you find yourself like, you educate, you sort of like educate them on the whole thing, but then you get tired. They're like, oh yeah, I'll get back to you like in the next days. Then they come again and be like, oh, so this, what do you mean by this? I just like, you're tired, you go back and forth, then it doesn't convert to anything. So
Yeah.
now you just need to have like, that base knowledge at least, okay, you have like this problem. I know maybe something is not connecting. That's why we're having this problem. Okay, yeah, you're my guy. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah. Absolutely. So in the language that you use around your brand, you talk a lot about clarity over aesthetics. Where do you see founders sort of overcomplicating their brands the most?
Yeah, they overcomplicate their brands like when it comes to the visual things,
Mhm.
right? A lot of people like, because like me, for example, I'm in the world of, particular like, content creation for personal brands,
Mhm.
right? So you see some people, they just care about, like these transitions, how fancy it looks. These, we have like this motion thing, going on in the videos, stuff like that. So they think like everything needs to look polished, right? But at the end of the day, like let's say for example, if your audience, maybe there are even people that don't really care about like stuff like that, like what happens, it doesn't land. And that's why like you just need to focus more on okay, who exactly am I really speaking to? Who are they really? And also just being aware of yourself to like about how you want to, put yourself out there in the world. Because if, for example, there are some clients that like their voice is like it shines better when they are more like relaxed or they are not in this like set up looking
Yeah.
phase. Okay, then guess what? Why would you now be caring about aesthetics if you're actually like that? It just makes no sense. So
Mm.
just be in tune with who you are, be in tune with what you like, what your message is, be in tune with like how you really want to put yourself out there, and also like really care more about the person at the receiving end as well. The person that will be listening to me, the person that will be consuming my content, like what are they really looking for? So that clarity matters way more than the aesthetics. Now I'm not like it's not like I'm actually against it, aesthetics or whatnot. I like things being well designed. See my carousels, for example, I usually like well designed things like really put in place. But I just know that like there's like hierarchy to these things, right? It's more
Right.
about like the clarity, first, and maybe the aesthetics or like the visual thing, bit
Yeah.
secondary. Yeah.
Right. Because you can have the most beautiful video, but if you're not clear on your message, then you're wasting your time. And so I,
Yeah.
I think that happens a lot. I mean, it's so interesting too, because for myself, I can help people get very clear on theirs, but even for my own, like I have a hard time getting clear about
Ah,
myself, but I can do it for others. There's this saying that
yeah,
says the shoemaker's kid has no shoes. And it's just this idea
yeah,
that, like, even though he makes shoes for everybody else, his own kids don't have them because it's hard sometimes. It'd be like a builder
yeah.
building their own home. It's like the amount of, everything that they know. It's almost like paralyzing for yourself, but yet you get paid to do it for other people. And I find that always very interesting. Like, I'm constantly like, are we clear on what we're offering? Like, is this a good example? But for others, I feel like I'm
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and honestly, like I don't think that will ever end, right?
Right.
I call it like the plague of the strategist, really, because it just doesn't. One thing that really helps me, like just put myself in check that okay, you are learning very well, you're doing stuff. Is like when we are doing strategy for clients, right? And you're like, okay, they're sharing their story, they're telling you they're actually like having these results, and then you're happy with the results that you're having. Okay, that means you're actually doing something right. So yeah, I sort of I call working with our clients like two wins. I help you win, and you also like help me win. Not from the point of like how much money you're paying me, but also like letting me have like clarity about my work even more. That okay, look, like what you're doing, you're on the right
Yeah.
path. So it's a very very good relationship. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I know what we're doing is so personal that you inherently get to know more about their life. And I find it interesting too, like how free flowing clients can speak when you're talking, but then when you turn the camera on, it's like a whole something is unlocked inside of some people. And I understand. I mean, of course, like I've filmed sometimes and I'll do it like 12 times. I'm like, okay, today's not the day, I'll do it
yeah.
another day. But can you share a quick story of a founder that you've helped and maybe a shift that you made for them? I think people listening might really want to see, like, an example of, I mean, you can see your work online, but if you wouldn't mind sharing a story of a client that you've really
Yeah.
felt that connection with.
Yeah, so there was in 2023 I went to Singapore, right? And before going to Singapore, there was this amazing person that had reached out to me. Then her name is May Ivy. She's an MC, right? So we're still like in the conversation of about me like can you help me with my brand, stuff like that, all right? Then lo and behold, I went to Singapore, and then she's based in Singapore. So when I put up a post on my story, oh, yeah, I'm actually in Singapore. Then she was one of the people that actually messaged that okay, look, let's connect. I was like, oh, so yeah, you're right here. We connected, and then we're having a conversation. Getting to Singapore, right? I noticed the culture, it's very, very laid back. It's almost like you see how maybe like let's say the US, for example, where it's like everybody's always on the move. Like it's like that crazy hustle spirit, you are
Mhm.
like out there, like trying to like chase. And then there are a lot of people really doing the old chasing as well, the hustling. Singapore was not like that. It's almost felt like this, I don't know how to put it. Maybe it's more of a feeling, but like this structured, easygoing. Yeah, it's cool to be maybe like a millionaire, but it's all right if I'm not. At the same time, it just feels like very very linear. And then there was no like you rarely see maybe like people let's say from social media for example like building massive personal brands and they are in Singapore like there are very few. And when I was having a conversation with this lady, a client, then over like dinner. All right, we're just talking about like, look, you can literally smoke everybody, in Singapore because there's no competition like that because nobody's really putting themselves out there like that. All right.
Mhm.
I'm glad she listened to me. She listened and then she became a client. And when she became a client, right, we started making content, blew up our Instagram. She was at 600 followers, and that literally went to 100K within weeks, really. All
Wow.
right. Then apart from that, we dialed in the whole messaging, the positioning, stuff like that as well, where she became like an MC for corporate. Okay, look like corporate guys. That's where more of the money is. And then, there was a time where she had like her biggest check where she did this event for like 2 day event for 5 grand. And she told me about it. She was like, man, Bami, like, this is amazing. I was like, yes, it is. Because you're in a space where like you can literally just smoke everybody because everybody just doing the barest minimum. Right. And that's the power of like just doing things like, differently, like, from other people, right? And just like, coming on here and showing up. And that's the clients that like I'll never forget. She's a good friend now as well. And yeah, won't forget her like to death. Right. So anybody that's actually in that space where you just know that, okay, look, there's like maybe not many people doing what I'm doing, or there is no many people like showing up like that, building a personal brand. you don't even need much stuff. You don't need any complicated stuff. You win
Yeah.
because there's competition is not like, crazy high, So
Right.
yeah.
That's a great story. So when you are building a brand with somebody, how do you really uncover who they actually are versus who they think they should be, right? So much of the work you're doing is
Mm.
getting clear, so clarity first. But how do you get there
Mhm.
with people? Is it really just through talking and tell us kind of about that process of, your brand and uncovering who people really are?
Yeah. So it all starts with a workshop. All right. So my clients, they call it therapy, because we really go as far back as like, who you were like when you're young, your family, what did that look like? Because I'm a big believer in whatever it is I actually believe right now, whatever your message is simply a sum total of like your experiences over the years. Right.
Mhm.
So from there, just having a conversation with them, like, free stuff, talking about childhood, about like how they got like to be doing what it is they're actually doing right now. Okay, you start to really see patterns. You start to connect. A lot of times, like these things are not very visible to them. All right. But you say, for example, like maybe a pattern that made you start a 9 to 5 job in maybe in high school or university. That same thing again, like made you start something, of your own after college. Then that same thing again, like happened again. We start to like really connect the dots, the patterns.
Yeah.
All right. And then once I notice that common thing, all right, what that pattern is, sometimes the belief that, how should I say, like how the clients were already thinking about showing up, before. If it
Mhm.
doesn't really connect to like, what this pattern is, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is really it for you, You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That 90-minute strategy, it's a 90-minute strategy workshop, really. Is really where the game is, pay attention to like the story, notice the patterns, and, yeah. And that's also the reason like I'm also a big believer in if you really want a strong brand, how should I say? It's more of like amplifying what is already there. It's not really
Yeah.
finding new things, really, at the end
Yeah.
of the day. And usually, because we've been through so much, these things are usually on the nose, but you don't see it. You need somebody else to help you see it. Then when they see it, they're like, oh my God, like this makes so much sense. Yeah, this is the path for me, right?
Yeah.
And then like it's also so emotional to the point where like you see some clients on the call like very emotional. Have literally had like clients who's like just like crying on the calls too because it's very very deep level stuff for them and they're like I'm like thank you so much. So they call it like the therapy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like what the process typically looks like. Then
Yeah.
we now get to like the whole building stage once we find out a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. What an incredible thing to help people uncover in their journeys, because business is so personal. And when it's a personal brand, it's like you have to lay it all out there in order to get to the root of what is making you tick and what is sort of like your North
Yeah.
Star of your story.
Hmm.
And you're doing that with them, and then they're creating content around that. And it's incredibly vulnerable. So I would imagine that it is therapeutic and that it
Yeah.
is something where people feel a lot of emotions because I think, I've talked about this before, but I'm 39 and I just recently realized, why I was overachieving so much. And it's something that happened in
Mm.
high school from being bullied. But that realization shifted my approach so much to the work I do because now it's for me. It's not for them, not to prove anything and not to show them.
Yeah.
And I'm much old. I mean, I'm 39 and I'm just figuring this out, that I didn't even realize I was performing for the acknowledgement of something like that. And so
Hmm.
when you can pull back the layers of the performance and really find the root of the human being, again, that's a gift that they'll have for a lifetime, that they get to
Yeah.
understand and uncover the core of who they are and what makes them tick. And then if they can build a business and make money off of it, then kind of a dream.
Yeah, exactly. And it just makes me remember the question of like there's this common thing where people ask like, I'm actually posting content. When do the followers start to come? When do the sales, the money, stuff like that start to come? And my usual answer is more like when you actually get to that point where you stop performing, like you
Mhm.
said, you really start to show up from a place of like understanding, your identity, really understanding like who it is you're actually connecting with, and then showing up in your content like that, all right, in your personal brand like that. The followers come, the money comes because then you become like this attractive energy. You are not like a robot, like the way you express yourself is very, very different. And I think that part is like something that it's not usually it's not talked about enough. Everybody just focus on the strategy. Hey, I'm actually posting 30 pieces of content right now, like the big hooks. All
Yeah.
right, that they are missing the piece of what really makes somebody like connect with you. What was that thing? And at the end of the day, we just connect with energy, and for you to really have an attractive energy, you need to really understand very well, your identity and what makes you tick and what just makes you different. And once you do that, you make that shine through in your content, in your
Mhm.
brand. Just a matter of time, you get wherever it is you're doing, and as the level of your result, like it just depends on how well you're able to match up like your real self, like make that energy shine through, in your
Yeah.
brand. Yeah, clarity is a big thing, big
And
thing.
I would also assume that people are almost uncovering that live on their videos, right? So, like, there's work you can do with somebody like yourself, but also in real time, you have to be uncovering and sort of discovering what is
Yeah,
that energy and where does it live. It can only shine brighter the more you practice. So, it would make sense that starting out, you're not going to have a lot of followers because you're quite literally uncovering yourself in front. I mean,
yeah,
that is literally why I do the podcast. I don't need to do a podcast. I'm sure I don't have millions of listeners, but what I love is the constant connection with others and the uncovering of my own voice, the uncovering of my own knowledge,
hmm
and watching
yeah,
the energy sort of like become what it needs to be through time. And it's almost like
yeah,
a capsule of time in my life where I am uncovering myself and I'm learning through others and becoming more in these conversations. I take a piece of
yeah,
each person that comes through here with me, because we're sharing in this incredibly sort of vulnerable and very organic way. There's no putting on a show for a podcast. A podcast is such a beautiful way to uncover what it is, that core energy that will end up
yeah.
driving your brand.
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing. It doesn't end, and that's what, like, even right now as well. One thing that I make sure like we actually do for clients is like every 2 weeks. We are always asking like what's happening in your world. What is going on? How is it? So that also like helps me know that okay, this is actually what is going. How do we like help you continue like voicing this out? Because your brand is just like it's a living person. So it
Yeah.
grows. Things happen, mistakes happen, new shifts, they happen. And then the more you're able to actually capture that real time, the stronger your voice becomes, the stronger your brand becomes as well. Right. So it's a never ending thing. It's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, I love that. One of my questions was about chasing trends, and I think we've kind of answered it here that like a
Yeah.
trend doesn't really matter if you're being authentic and sort of true to uncovering that energy. So, what is your sort of take on the chasing trends on social media? I feel like you sort of answered it, but if you want to make any
Yeah.
commentary there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, when it comes to chasing trends, like I don't mind like doing it, all right. But whatever trends you actually chase, you need to understand like trends are actually like short term. You can indulge like short term. It's all right, have fun, so it's not rigid. And whatever trends you actually chase, right, should be something really that appeals to you, that are really contributes to the kind of brand you are building. Because if, for example, like there is no way me myself, I'm not a dancer at all. I don't know how to dance. I can't take no step. Then imagine there's like a trend out there that actually involves dancing, and then maybe all in the name of everybody's actually doing this trend, and I'm actually now going out there to like do the dance. It makes no sense. That's like me not being true to
Yeah,
myself. So yeah, indulge in trends, yes, but it should be something that like genuinely appeals to you. And also just know that, okay, look, like short term, it's a short term thing. Don't be too, it's like, don't build your brand on it. It's just something that you're like on a path, right? You're taking a detour, like, okay, yeah, let me just like see what's going on right here, and continue wherever it's the main thing you're doing. Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I am absolutely not a dancer either, but also it's such a great way to look at it that it can be sort of pulled in here and there as you see fit, as it feels good, as it feels right. But it's by no means a roadmap or a strategy in any way, because if you're just only doing the trends, which happens, there's a lot of people who are only doing that. And maybe they have lots of followers, but for the sake
Mhm.
of like long-term value, they don't have a voice. They don't have an identity. They're
Exactly.
just chasing
Mhm.
trends. And I
Yeah.
think that it could work now, but it won't work long term. And so that's something to consider is as you're growing your storyline, your digital storyline. If you're only chasing trends, you're not building your voice, if you're not sharing authentically, then you don't really have a leg to stand on, no pun intended, but like you're not a brand, you're just
Yeah.
chasing the trends, you know?
You just copy pasting, what other guys are doing. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, as we wrap up, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. For somebody who's
Me too, Alex.
listening to this, or who feels unknown, who feels stuck, what's one action you think they could take today that will really help them sort of get out of a moment? And I think if people follow you, you actually do videos about, I just saw an amazing video you did that was a split screen of,
Yeah.
one side could be stuck, the other could be 10 minutes. But if you would indulge us in
Yeah.
just like a little tip of kind of getting out of that.
And by the way, that's a trend, by the way. I saw that from somebody.
I loved it. But it worked for you, right? That's the point.
Exactly. It works, it appeals to me. So yeah, one piece of advice would be like pick a story. I'll pick a story tomorrow, go to close to your window. Okay, pull up your phone, all right, your story. Share something that like communicates who you are, what you do, and like why the work you do matters. All right. Say for example, like I talked about the story of May, my client. Well, just starting like giving my brand, for example, what I would have done is like, go to my window where there's sunlight on my phone and talk about this story and post it. Right. So because the story is basically it's an amazing content format, connects with people differently because you are really able to bring people into like your world, into like an experience really. So yeah, communicate a story, share something, story really, and get it going 100%.
I'm going to do that now. You just inspired me. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
talking
Alex.
to me today. This was so lovely. I'm so grateful to know you and to be connected from opposite sides of the world. I will leave in here how people can follow you. And is there anything else you want to say wrapping up?
No, nothing else. I hope 6 is a great year for like people that like that are really putting in the work genuinely, and people that like they are right here to make a difference in whatever capacity. Because I'm a big believer like such people are the guys that should be known, that should have the influence, the opportunities. But sadly, we are in a world where like the guys are like that just know how to handle phones, with transitions. Feels like they are occupying everywhere, no substance whatsoever. And that's why like I'm still saying people with the substance, with the story, please come out there. You are needed. All right. The depth is needed.
Beautiful. Well, thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Have a good one.